right, guys, welcome back to The Real Shit. It has been a minute. We have both been through quite a bit. We've been working hard. A lot of transitions, sicknesses, all that good stuff. But we're very excited to be here. Welcome back. Lori, say hi.
Hi, guys. Missed you.
Yeah, we missed you. So tonight we... because of all of the things that have been kind of just circling in our world lately, we really wanted to tap into a little bit of some traumas when it comes from both sides of us. So tonight we thought that we would kind of switch it up a bit, and Lori tonight is going to be our guest, and we're going to talk about domestic violence. And we've talked about it a little bit in a previous podcast when it comes to men dealing with that. But, that touched a little home for her because that's something that you have been through. And,
absolutely. Yeah.
And so tonight we are going to dive deep into that. So before we get started, first off, Lori, let's just give them, since we're going to start introducing ourselves, what do you do? Who are you?
Who am I? Well, I'm female. I guess I'll start with that. I am a mother of two, and I have three beautiful grandchildren out there, the ages of 2.5 to 6.
And they call you Gigi.
They call me Gigi. Yeah, GRAND is not allowed in our family's vocabulary. They are my G kids, my G daughter, and my G sons. They were pretty hot, Grandma.
A pretty hot Gigi. Oops, I already slipped.
I'll forgive you this once. I am a college graduate. I have a master's degree in physical therapy, and that career has provided a good life for me to date. I now am a area rehab director, and I manage therapists in skilled nursing facilities. So my career has gone from treating physician to now a leader and developer of clinicians. Yeah, so that's kind of it in a nutshell.
You're definitely on the road a lot, but you still have your magic fingers from time to time. I'm not going to lie, you guys. It's really nice having a business partner that knows how to use her fingers.
And there's a whole other podcast on that.
Yeah, we're going to do one on masturbation soon. That'll be a fun one. But what's neat about all of your accomplishments is that this is really rooted from a completely different Lori. When you started off in life and the struggle, your journey a little bit, the domestic violence that you have faced, we're going to go into that a little bit tonight. So this is exciting for us because when we started this company, we really wanted to help people and really just to be able to listen and to validate their feelings on things, but to also let you guys know that we've, a little bit of things that we've been through personally. A few of our journeys that we've overcome.
Well, our podcast is Let's Talk About the Real Shit, and that's because we've lived through it.
Yeah. When you've been through shit, you can say shit.
Right? Amen. And part of our first daydream about this company really was to give people a voice. And if you don't have a voice, then you can maybe wear your words. And that's where the whole t-shirt came from. But I think the podcast gives us an opportunity to give many people a voice. And maybe it's a dream or it's something they developed or a business that they've started, or what we're going to talk about tonight is, some shit that people go through.
It's what connects us, I would say. It's somebody right now would see you and you always look smoking hot when you go. I mean, smoking hot, guys. And and it's something to think about, people's perception of where you are now, and how you fought your way to that. But they would never know the story that you came from, which, this is the real shit here. This is what made you successful.
Well, and I think part of what you see now is years of work to try and move past my past and to maybe model the way or show my daughter something different, and even now show my granddaughter an even better path of life, a more peaceful path to live, and that you don't have to live in other people's shit and you don't have to put up with bullshit. It's hard. It's a struggle. You have to humble yourself, but you can grow and we get to create our own lives. Sometimes we stay in our pile of shit. I had a counselor at one point in time when I was married the first time, and I was thinking about leaving, and this still resonates with me because she told me, she said, well, I will give you that. Your life is a warm, cozy pile of shit. And she said, but you're comfortable in that pile of shit. You really are comfortable in it. She said, you kind of have one foot outside of the pile of shit now, and you have to choose whether you're going to go back into your comfort zone, into your shitty life, or if you're going to step out into the cold unknown. And only you can make that choice.
Yeah.
And I chose to step out.
I definitely want to go into that a little bit tonight on what you think were the pivotal moments for you in making that choice, because it's going to be different for everybody.
Right.
And so we're excited to hear your perception of what you went through and the timing and all of that. Before we really get into it, we would love to set some intention, and you definitely had a great thought of the day, and let's hear it.
Well, the thought of the day is your fortune is in your faith. Now, you can look at that several different ways. You can look at it as fortune is in monetary wealth. And I do believe that it takes some faith and some action for most of us to move ourselves up the monetary ladder of life. It could be your fortune is how you treat your family and your faith in yourself and the ability to make changes to treat your family members who may not have treated you with respect. And the same with anybody out in society, from your boss to a homeless person. It's all about your choice, your faith, and what you want to create your life to be and how you want to treat others. That's kind of my spin on that today.
I see that as something that's been kind of coming up lately for me in my world, whereas it's like just to have some faith or just have some faith. And so for me, it was a financial thing, and I can go out and I can make the money, but I also, you can't tell how much money you're going to make in the day. You can do your best. So what I did was I went out and I did my best. I worked until I just absolutely couldn't do it anymore. And then I just believed, I had to just trust that, I will make it up and everything will be okay the next day, and I'll have that time. And if I don't, then I have to just trust that, something else will happen. And this is the repercussion of what will happen because of that. But it also really put like a little fire in my step, as far as like, I never want to get down to this point again.
Right.
So I suck at budgeting. And so something that I'm going to be working on this month is really, for me, at a really basic level, have to kind of just make it more visual for myself and really write everything out, and maybe even put decorated jars out just to save money. But like that, but that's just how my brain works. That's how I process things, was when I can see it all in front of me. So it's for me, it's doing what you can do, the best that you can, working very, very hard, and usually when you work very, very hard, and then you also allow yourself that forgiveness, like grace. It's like asking, the grace. It's like asking forgiveness, not permission. It's like, okay, this is my limit. Now I trust, and usually it does work out for you.
Well, you used a big word there, Naomi, and that's trust. And when you come from a background of trauma, whatever your trauma is, at least from my experience on this planet. I am just now getting to where I can really trust my own faith and trust that I don't have to have my hand on the cookie jar to make sure the cookie jar stays on the counter and the cookies stay in the jar and everything stays the way it's supposed to be. I've since the day you and I had our few beers and had our daydream about this company and where we wanted to go, that's when I've really had to let go of some of that control and allow something new to come to me, whatever that new is. And that's trust in the unknown. And
well, it's also, I think, when you talk about trauma and trusting the unknown, you also had to kind of put a little bit of trust into another human being.
Oh, at times, definitely.
So here we are just having cocktails. We're like, yeah, this is a great idea. But how many times have we all done that, right? Where we were all sitting and having cocktails and you had a great idea. But how many of you have
left it at the table?
Yeah. Or done something about it. And I would say within a few weeks of that, we were up and ready to go and the LLC was in and
a month to the date we had our LLC legalized.
So that's the difference.
And we had to push our name through the Oregon registry. They did not like the name of the real shit in the beginning, but we persevered and we made that happen.
It was our first victory.
It was the first victory.
But do you see what I'm saying when it comes to trusting too? And this is something that's been coming up a lot in my world is trust. It's building the team. Not everybody is going to be able to bring into the table because their vibration just isn't going to be on that same plane as we are. And when we talk about that, it's okay, we've got a lot of things, big things happening. We're going to need a reliable person, outside of their job that they're reliable at. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so trusting in somebody like that and opening up that new door into something new is very brave of you. So thank you for trusting me.
Oh, well, thank you for trusting me too. I mean, that's a two-way.
Totally.
Two-way door, revolving door, kind of. Sometimes it goes clockwise, sometimes counterclockwise, but we seem to make it work.
Yeah, I would say that one of the most beautiful things about trusting each other in this process has been the fact that we've learned that we both have different strengths and different weaknesses and that it really actually complements each other, and which is one of the reasons why this works so well.
Right. Agreed.
Yay. So cheers to that.
Cheers.
So let's start off. Let's get a little bit deep into your story tonight. Let's start from the beginning a little bit. Like where were you, Kansas, we know Kansas. We've talked about that. Yeah. So is that where you were born? And when did you get married and so on? Let's just in a nutshell, lead us up to the point with this man.
Well, I've thought a little bit about this since we've decided to have this topic, and I really think I don't want to go back into my childhood because I'm not 100% sure. Well, I'm not 100% sure of my memories on anything because, the stories we tell ourselves may be embellished or you may lose some things. But
when did you get married?
I got married on my 20th birthday.
Okay, so I was 19.
Yeah, on my 20th birthday. And,
that's young.
It's young, and I came from a place of really, really low self-esteem. And my first husband was an attractive man in my perception. And I remember thinking to myself at one point in time, he's proposed, so you better grab at this, because I was bullied when I was younger and told that, I wasn't pretty or I wasn't worthy and nobody wanted to date me. And so I was coming from a place of really low self-esteem, even though I didn't know it at the time. It was kind of my norm, which is sad. But so I married him, and we waited for a couple of years to have children. Thank goodness. I was a cosmetologist, and we just kind of lived this, I don't even, the daily life from way back then. That's just what it was. We both went to work. He was a farmer. I was a cosmetologist. We came home at night. We ate and got up and do it again, except for the fact that he had to have like a case of beer to go to sleep and a 6-pack of beer to wake up and get out the door. I knew that wasn't normal or right. He was also into some other drugs that I didn't realize the depth that he was addicted to these drugs when we met and married. So that all kind of came out through the years. And then I had my first child, and there were times when he would even use that child as a threat or a punishment, like grabbing the baby out of my arms and not letting me have my baby, and threatening me and scaring me. I don't know if he would have harmed the child at all. I don't think that was his intention. I think his intention was to completely terrify me and bring me to my knees so I would do whatever, was expected, or what he wanted me to do, or say what I wanted to say, or, shut the fuck up, or whatever it was. But I remember a few of those horrifying, terrifying moments and we lived 18 miles out in the country. So there was no neighbors that I could run to, and one of his favorite tricks would be to grab the phone and rip the cords out off the phone, so I couldn't even call anybody. I finally got wise and started hiding car keys close by to the car, so if I needed to, I could potentially make an escape through the car. But then there was always the car chase down a country road with a kid in a car seat, and that's scary as fuck too, Yeah. So what do? You cave.
Yeah.
You cave.
Well, first off, you're young when you go into it, and you don't have any confidence whatsoever. You don't even know who you are at that point. And then you're instantly with this man, and you're going through this routine of what you think of a relationship. So you go through the routine. You don't really know past what you're just have been watching your whole life to do. You don't know how to be in a relationship, how to love, how to deal with things, how to communicate.
It's all about communication. I remember every evening I would sit and I would listen to his footsteps coming in, because I could tell. I got to the point where I could tell his mood by the way he walked up the stairs into the home.
Scary.
And I remember one of the arguments, the fights we had, was over dinner. One night he came home and it's like, why isn't dinner on the table ready for me? I've been working all day. And then the very next night he would come home and say, I want to come home and have a few beers. Why the hell is dinner on the table? It's like, fuck, which way is it? Which way do I go? I cannot win. I cannot win. And
so you had 2 kids. So when did your second one come along?
The second one came along 21 months after the first. So
It's exhausting.
I had them quickly, but I also had them quickly with a plan, because after my first was born, things escalated in a negative way pretty quickly. I mean, it went from verbal to emotional to physical, and there were times when one of the times that I remember distinctly was lying on the kitchen floor, and he was just kicking me, and I couldn't do anything, but protect my head. I thought, protect your head and protect your gut. So, because you have a baby you have to take care of, right? So there were more occasions like that. Like, I couldn't give you a number because it's been decades ago. But I decided
How long were you in this with him?
6 years. And I came from a family of 4 siblings, and I just couldn't fathom having an only child. So I stuck in the marriage to have a second child so my children could have siblings. So that whole pregnancy and that whole time frame was just stressful. It was so stressful. And I don't know if I had it to do over again, if I would do anything differently, because, now I have 2 kids and 3 G kids. And
of course, but
in me looking back retrospectively, that was really sick thinking. It was sick thinking to stay in a marriage and to conceive another child and to stay until that child was old enough. My goal was to have her potty trained, which when that happened, I made my escape plan and we were out. But I stayed in that marriage to have another child, and that's not healthy thinking.
So before we get into the escape plan part of the next stage and what's been happening, I wanted to go into a little bit about when you break it down. I was also married at 20 years old, 19. I had my son at 20. And I hear a lot of similarities in your story. And when you think about being in your younger 20s, now at our age, and now our kids have gone through that age. So we've had another kind of lapse of a layer of that age as an older mom and parent after going through what we've gone through. Let's talk a little bit about what you think when you break it down to that sick way of thinking, because we've talked about that in our last podcast when we were talking about domestic violence in general, about the love and what we're taught, what love is. And so at 20, we think we know everything and we're so independent. We have to be so goddamn on our own about everything that we do. And we definitely, now as we're older, we're so careful on who we let into our lives. But at that age, that door is wide open and we don't even know who the fuck we are.
Right.
Or what way is north, for that matter.
Right. And neither do our potential partners, right?
Oh my God. Absolutely. Because it absolutely goes both ways. Because a lot of times they are out working hard, and because that's what they think that they have to go to, because they look at the family structure, the white picket fence thing where the dad goes to the work and da-da-da-da-da-da. It's the little American boxes dream. Full of ticky-tacky little boxes.
I love that show.
But that's what it's like. That's like the box that we are told that's what we're supposed to do. And when we're kind of trying to escape our parents' realm, we literally went from one household to another household. We didn't have any break in between.
I did not. Well, I had a year of cosmetology school, but he and I were living together during that year. So we weren't married, but we were still together, right? So I went...
Right, you're still figuring out,
right?
Who does dishes, you just don't even really know how to budget a checkbook yet, even, really. Or, I don't know about you, but did you go to college? Later. You went to college later.
Well, I started at college, and then I met him. And decided to drop out because I liked partying more than studying at that point in time.
Also normal.
Right? Well, this was 17. I started college when I was 17. So 17 to 18, I think I had a semester and a half of college. I might have even completed 2 semesters with a really low GPA, but...
I didn't even know what that experience, because I didn't even do high school. So I totally had just a different... I've been working full-time since I was 12. So I went from one household to another. You as well. College.
Pretty much, because I was still living with my parents when I was going to college, because it was a community college in our hometown. And then we met and decided that we wanted to get married, but we needed to sustain ourselves. So we decided to go to the technical school in the next town, and I studied cosmetology, and I can't even remember what he studied, to be honest with you. And that was a year-long program. And then we got married and we moved to his family's farmstead, which was clear the fuck out in bumfuck Kansas, man.
Isn't it funny that you can't remember what he studied because you think things are so significant at a certain time in your life, and it's so fucking dramatic, and you're just like, now that we're talking about these kind of details, like, yeah, I don't remember. You know what? But it's just to give perspective, on the process, right? And where you are now, where we are now.
Right.
So when you think about your kids and my kids, they're about that age, and what you've gone through as a mother too, do you think that it gives you more perspective now that you've mothered children at that age?
Absolutely.
To be more forgiving for your experience and what led you into what happened to you, essentially?
Well,
because they were taught the same thing, they were taught the white picket fence. Your parents were from our grandparents, which was an old generation, old way of thinking. It's not that long ago.
Well, I think I started switching it up for my kids a little bit. I mean, my daughter didn't have her first child until she was 27. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Good job, girl.
Right. And she's been going to school. However, she's had some significant relationships in her life that did not turn out well. And I've had to be there to help clean up some messes, literally. But she's changing the cycle even faster than I did. She's able to recognize it and get out and move forward. And my prayer is that my G daughter never has to experience that. I want her to have the tools that she needs to successfully be the best person that she can be and fly. I don't want her to think that she has to have a significant person in her life to make her whole. I want her to be able to recognize that happiness comes from within and only from within. No person, place, or thing can make you happy. They can embellish it, they can add to your joy, but they cannot make you happy. You have to choose that. And my daughter is doing a beautiful, wonderful job of crafting and creating this young woman, little girl, to have self-confidence and know that she can make choices and she can choose whatever the fuck she wants to do with her own life.
Yeah. Yeah, I do know. I mean, I think that we want, of course, as parents, I think instinctively we don't really want to see our little cubs suffering. We really don't. It's very difficult as a parent to see your kids suffering. And when we've gone through such suffering too, it's really difficult. But one thing with my son, and I don't know, I think that it's done well. Hopefully it's done well for him, or he'll at least remember this at one point in his life when he gets a little older, is that, I'm just not I'm here to soften the blow, but I'm not here to hand you the silver platter, because as much as we hate watching our kids suffer, I do love those moments what I have with my son where he works through something, and kind of guided him a little. Because when he works through it and then he ends up with the result, and seeing the look on his face after he's figured out that result is very satisfying.
Right.
as a mother. You have to let them suffer a little, because that's how they learn to be more empathetic, compassionate people. Exactly. And they learn break these cycles a lot sooner than we did, because they're learning that. Because we're allowing them that
to struggle.
Space. Yeah, to learn. It's like in the Batman movie. Why do we fall? So we learn to get back up again.
Right. I told my kids. I said, I am sorry you're in your 20s, man. The 20s suck.
They're really hard.
I mean, for the average American middle class or lower middle class, the 20s really suck, because A, you're trying to figure out who the fuck you are even.
And you're independent for the first time.
Yeah, and
legally,
not
right. necessarily mentally, legally,
right. So you can make some dumbass choices out there with money and drugs and alcohol, and and partners and friends. But the 20s, for me, looking back, almost everybody I know struggled in their 20s until their late 20s to early 30s, when they finally start finding some solidness, some foundation maybe under their own 2 feet without, parents or somebody supporting them and helping them.
Yeah.
At least that's been my experience.
Also sheltering them from a lot of things in this world too. I mean, that's a very common thing as well, is these poor babies now at 18 are not equipped or prepared for the real part of life. The real shit is the shit that you go through. Like the shit struggle that you see, it's where you learn your street smarts, where you learn your social skills, where you learn psychology, and also where you find your tribe. Right. That's part of the journey through that.
It's every mother's heart that their children don't ever have to struggle, but that's just not reality. And honestly, now looking back at the journey that my children have gone through in their young adulthoods, they've had some shitty moments too. I'm not going to lie or sugarcoat it. They've had some shitty moments in their life. And the hardest part for me has been literally sometimes to step back and even put distance, like, call me when you want to actually talk to me and not when you just want to yell at me and use me for your shit sponge. That's what I used to tell them. I'm not going to be your shit sponge anymore. Yeah. You can't blame everything that's going wrong in your life on me and your childhood. Grow the fuck up, take a look at yourself and figure it out, and call me when you can talk to me with some respect.
And also, I mean, you do put yourself in these positions when you're at that age. Like, we're really good at
you
that.
do, and as a mother,
it's kind of like you play, you pay. I mean, you got to figure it out. You are the one who actually did put yourself in this position. Figure it out.
But I'll own my side of that too, because as a single parent, I mean, my kids were young when I left, 3 and 19 months old when I left.
Let's talk about that a little bit. 3 and 9 months old.
Just to finish that thought, when they were young when I left, and so I was mom and dad their whole life, really their whole life. Their father flitted in and out. I mean, he had his demons that he was dealing with, drugs and alcohol and instability and, criminal issues that he had to deal with. So to own that, I overcompensated a lot. I gave in a lot. I, thought buying them things and giving them whatever they wanted was a way to show love within my budget, which was small. But that also kind of fostered that environment where they could just almost expect me to come and give them what they needed emotionally and monetarily and even sometimes physically, that I just couldn't do anymore, nor was it healthy for me to do it for them. I finally got to the realization that they're at a stage in their life where it's not healthy for me to come in and save the day anymore. They've got to figure it out.
So what was the dad doing through this? Was he, when he was kind of wisping into life, did he overdo it with presents and giving them things so that he made himself look like the good guy? Or was he just an asshole around the kid?
He wasn't.
What was his relationship with the kids when he was
pretty
around?
much non-existent, to be honest. So let's go back to 3 and 19 months. So there came a point in time where I decided that I could either live in my cozy warm pile of shit or I had to step out of it. And I chose to step out of it because I did not want to raise my children in a warm pile of shit. I won't call it a cozy pile of shit, but it was the life I knew. So it was comfortable. I knew I had a roof over my head. I knew that the farm would sustain me, that I would have everything I needed to, physically survive and have my children. But I chose to step out, and one of the ways I chose to do that was to confide, to trust in another human being, and that happened to be a female deputy sheriff, and I told her my story and what I needed to do. And so she actually helped me put an exit plan together. And this time of year is really challenging for me on many different levels, but one of the worst nights that I can remember physical abuse was Christmas Eve. Must have been 91-ish.
20 years ago.
And it just got insane that night. And it was about, putting the toys together for the children. So the train would be under the tree, the Disney Christmas morning. And I mean, that happened for my kids, but the time prior to that was hell for me. It was just a horrific night. And I remember getting through the physical part of it and then pulling my shit together and putting the train track up under the tree so that my kids wouldn't be affected. But I look back at those pictures of that morning, that Christmas morning, and I can just see the sadness in my face. And it was that day, that was the straw. Christmas Eve was the straw that broke my back. And I was like, I'm never having another Christmas like this. My children are never having another holiday like this. And so I confided in this other person, and she helped me put an exit strategy together. And it took about 4 weeks. I had been squirreling some money away. I was hiding it in like coat pockets in the closet, which is, for me, was a really good place to hide money. And then I was also hiding some in a secret bank account. And Raina was helping me to find a shelter for a safe place to go once I left, because I mean, there had been several car chases. I mean, there had been several things threatening to set the house on fire. Right. I mean, crazy shit. And she told me that she would help me get out. She found a shelter in Salina, Kansas, which was a 5-hour drive from where I lived. That was the well, there was one closer, but I told her, I said, I'd rather drive the 3 extra hours and be that much further away from him and closer to my own family, which was another kind of shitty deal why I had to go to a shelter, but we won't get into that. So she helped me make this escape plan, and we decided on a day, and I believe it was something like January 18th or 19th. And so here I am. I've been sneaking clothes in the car, in the trunk of the car, little bits at a time throughout this whole time. I'm squirreling away all this stuff. And then it came the day, and I grabbed the kids. I grabbed one laundry basket and threw some of their favorite toys in it. I already had our clothes in the car. And I took off. I went into town. I told the sheriff that I was leaving. This is the time I'm leaving. And she had already set it up with the shelter. They knew when to expect me. If I didn't show up, they were going to call her. Everybody knew what I was driving. I mean, it was a pretty well laid out plan. And I'm driving down this country road, and I'll be goddamned, here he comes. And I'm like, motherfucker, here he comes. And he's like flashing his lights and honking his horn. And this is a gravel country road.
Scary.
And he is a very skilled driver. I'll give him that. And I knew that about him. So he was like taking the pickup and passing me on dirt road, and then, you get this cloud of dust, and he would hit his brakes. So I'm like sliding and trying not to. It was terrifying. All I wanted to do was get off that country road with my 2 children in the car. And we finally got to a highway, and I pulled over and I got out and I told him, I am leaving you. I'm leaving you. The sheriff department knows I'm leaving, and they know where I'm going, and they know what time I'm supposed to get there. So if you don't want any problems today from the sheriff's office, you really need to let me go, and you need to let me go now. And it wasn't that fast of a conversation, but that's what it boiled down to. And I finally stood my ground with him, and I looked him in the eye, and I think he felt
Mama Bear.
the fear. He felt the fear, like, I've got a plan and it's in place. And if you fuck with me right now, you're the one going down.
Yeah.
Not me.
Mm-hmm.
So then I get to the bank to get my squirreled out money, and it's frickin' Martin Luther King's birthday.
So
Bank's closed. Like, are you kidding me? Oh my God. So I told Rain, I said, now what I do? She said, you stick with the plan. We can wire money to you tomorrow. Get your butt where you're supposed to be. Get your kids safe.
Yeah.
That was the longest 5-hour drive of my life. I'm trying to hold it together. My kids are freaked out because they just went through another one of these car chases. They can tell I'm terrified and screaming. And we finally get to the shelter. It was dark. I remember it was dark. And I pulled up to the secret house, and I was just sitting in the car looking at this house and thinking, where the hell am I, and how did I get here, and what am I doing to my children? It was a moment of pure fear and panic, and I had to make another step outside my comfort zone into the great unknown and get my kids out of their car seats and walk into a place with nobody that I knew. I didn't know what the environment was going to be like. And there we stepped the first night. And they had a beautiful room set up for us with bunk beds for the kids and a full-size mattress for me. And so I actually snuggled my babies with me that night.
Yeah,
there was no way I was going to put them in their little beds, and got them to sleep. And then I went back downstairs, and the night counselor was there, and she said, you can talk or you can't. You don't have to talk. I'm here if you want to talk. I can get you some tea, whatever. And I just remember saying, yeah, tea would be good. And I just kind of sat there and collapsed. That counselor became one of my best friends and best allies. We've lost touch over the years, more my fault than hers, definitely. Sometimes I don't make enough effort to keep connections solid that should probably remain solid, because
she would be very proud of you right now.
Because I move on. So we were in the shelter. We were allowed to stay in the shelter for 30 days. But I, being the go-getter that I am, I had to eat a lot of humble pie. I had to go on social services. I was on welfare. I was on food stamps. I lived in HUD housing. And they allowed me to stay there an extra 15 days because they saw that I had all of these things lined up, but it just didn't line up with the 30-day time limit. So they let me stay there for 45 days.
Yeah.
And this sweet man, Rick, that I met at Salvation Army, I think, was one of the places I went to. One of those entities, Goodwill, Salvation Army. He told me of a temporary housing plan that they had for survivors because I felt like I was a survivor of domestic violence then.
Yeah.
And it was a transitional home where they actually gave me and the children everything we needed for 3 months so that I could save enough money to have a deposit to get into our own place. I mean, groceries, diapers, anything I needed, they provided for 3 months. It's a huge gas coupons.
All the little stuff adds up.
Anything I needed, they provided for 3 months. So I really felt blessed in that, stepping into the unknown, that I was being guided to the right places with the right people.
To give you the tools you needed.
To give me the tools I needed. And the caseworker that I was assigned to helped me get into college. So my first 2 years of college were paid by taxpayers' dollars, which I'll tell you, living in Oregon, I have more than paid that back. So I feel like that's what that program is for. It's a stepping stone to help people get to where they need. And then you get there and then you give back. My sophomore year, the government decided to close the bachelor's degree program down and take everybody and put them into a trade school. Well, my caseworker went to bat for me again, and she went to the state and said, look, this girl has been on the dean's honor roll for 5 semesters in a row now, 4.0. You can't yank the rug out from under her feet.
Yeah.
You've got to give her a chance. And they did.
Wow.
They continued to help me through my bachelor's degree.
All while your kids were little too.
My kids were 2 and 4 when I went back to college.
That's little.
Yeah. And Head Start provided free childcare for me while I was in school. I mean, I really feel blessed by the people that came into my life at that point in time and helped me do what I need to do. I mean,
did you have a job at the same time you were doing all this too?
No, our life was extremely structured. I mean, my tuition was paid for by the state of Kansas, but our living expenses were all student loans that I had to take out. I did have a full ride scholarship from the Howard Hughes Science Initiative for my last 2 years, which also helped. And that scholarship also provided a childcare stipend for me too. So I was really blessed, and the church that I was involved in at that time really helped out with childcare and all different kinds of things. But it was not easy. Yeah. I came out with 2 full degrees, and that was good enough to get me into physical therapy school, again, as a single parent. So it has not been a easy road to hoe.
It's been a long road for you. I pulled up an article today, and it was on some statistics on some of the things that we face with domestic violence. And it says, on average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the U.S. During 1 year, this equates to more than 10 million men and women. And it says 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men experience severe intimate partner physical violence, intimate partner contact sexual violence, and or intimate partner stalking with impacts such as injury, fearfulness, post-traumatic stress disorder, use of victim services, contraction of sexually transmitted diseases, and et cetera. So, I mean, this is just to barely tap in. I mean, this really goes into all of the things that are happening. So, we brought it up too that this happens to men a lot, and actually in this article that it brought up, and when it was talking about rape, they don't really have. It's not as many males come forward when it comes to rape. And being a victim of that, but it's something that we all go through, and I've definitely gone through it in a totally different story. But I was also very, very young, and we've learned so much from that. And here we are now helping other people. If we were to kind of go into what has helped you, I mean, other than your drive, your pure passion, I mean, you have a lot of drive. There are some people who think that they don't have the strength to do what you have done to get them out of this position. If there's something that you could say to that person that was thinking about ending that kind of abuse in their life, whether it be a man or a woman, what would that be? And you can think about that for a minute. Take your time.
We are all spirits from a divine source, and we all have the right to exist in a happy, safe, loving environment. So if you're in an environment that is none of those things, you need to dig deep and look within yourself and see what you need to change and muster the strength and reach out. You have to reach out. Everybody that I know of at some point in time had to reach out to some person, and I had to reach outside of my family.
To trust.
To find somebody that I could trust. My sister was there, but she was in her own shit. Mm-hmm. She was dealing with her own shit. And you put two sisters with their kids in each other's shit, it doesn't work out very well. Mm-mm. And I had been going to Al-Anon, so I had been doing some work on myself. Mm-hmm. And I had, that's where I started, was something's got to change. And I think you get to that point. I remember looking in the mirror with, tears in my eyes and a red nose, and looking at myself, looking at my eyes in the mirror and thinking, who the hell are you and how did you get here? How did you allow this to happen to yourself? And what are you going to do to change it, girl? Because you're the only one that can change it. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody, I guess that's, quote, hitting the bottom or whatever, but you've got to come to that moment of realization that you have some sort of self-worth. And you don't deserve to be talked to that way. You don't deserve to be physically assaulted. You don't deserve to be sexually assaulted. That's not what our spirits are put on this earth for.
That's not what love is.
That's not what love is.
That's exactly what not love is. So some of us who have been in these abusive relationships again and again and again, and where you're the common denominator in all your suffering, which is the line you came up with for one of our t-shirts, where it's like, okay, this keeps happening. So we talked about this before, where we aren't taught what real love is.
I did not know what love was. I couldn't.
So we're saying it right now on air, that is not what love is.
That is not what love is.
That level of abuse and that is not what love is.
That's not what love is. And both people, whoever is receiving the abuse and whoever is delivering the abuse, both of those people don't know what love is.
Exactly.
Neither one of them do. And they're trying to figure it out in the worst case scenario ever.
And trying to figure out how to communicate that when you don't really know who the hell you are in the first place is not an easy thing to do.
It's not an easy thing to do. And I think that's one of my passions right now is I want to try to help people figure that out. Help people figure out, where do you reach out to? I had to eat a lot of humble pie in my 20-year-old, 23-year-old head, 25-year-old head at that point in time. I had to eat a lot of humble pie. I'm going to a shelter. What? I'm going on welfare. What? That was like almost a death knife in my father's heart. My daughter's on welfare. What? So I had not only social stigmas to deal with, but family stigmas to deal with too. But it was like I had to do something different. I could not live that way anymore.
You knew what didn't work.
I
At least you had that information.
But then in saying that, Naomi, you know what? I repeated it again. I waited 10 years to get married, and that marriage ended up having...
I did the same thing.
Emotional and verbal abuse that eventually led to physical abuse. It wasn't on par or as often as the first one, but there was a relationship in between those two that had physical and emotional and verbal abuse in it. And my ownership on that, looking back on it, was I had not done enough work on my own self-esteem and my own self-worth. And now let's fast forward another 10 years. The last significant relationship I was in was also emotionally abusive. And I had done, I was a successful professional at that point in time. But my self-worth was not, I did not value myself enough to say bullshit. Bullshit. Fuck you. I mean, I'm sure I said those things in the heat of an argument or whatever. But I'm grateful for each and every one of these relationships, because each and every one of them have given me lessons to learn and to move forward. And this last one in particular, talk about going to the depths of hell, man.
Yeah, you're very protective of yourself now, which I'm very proud of you in the dating world right now. It's pretty great to see.
But that relationship really took me to my bottom.
Oh, yeah. That was about bottom. When we met, was at the end of that.
Right.
Yeah.
It took me to my bottom.
Because you did it, because you found yourself in that same space again after the struggle.
I found myself,
you raised your kids, and here you are again.
Well,
I understand.
I'm successful and a professional, and people tell me that I'm at least average or maybe above average when it comes to physical appearance. But that relationship, I thought I had all that dialed in, and then I met this magical person that I thought was my person, and that person ended up just yanking my heart out. And at the end of that, I was just like, what is my worth? It's not the money I bring to the table. It's not the degrees I have. It's not my profession. What is my worth? And I've done a deep dive for the last 2 years, and I'm grateful for that situation, because I have learned so much about myself and what love really is, self-love really is. I used to hear the Bible verse, love your neighbor as yourself. I'm like, all right, well, fuck you. Because that's how I feel about myself, right? What?
And that's actually a thing happening around us right now. That's how a lot of people feel.
What the hell is love your neighbor as yourself? I don't love myself. That was the one Bible verse that I sat and spun on for a long time, because I just couldn't connect with it at all. Could not connect with it. But now I can. Now I can.
Well, because you've started to learn what real love is, because you've learned to love yourself.
I'm learning. I'm still learning.
Of course, we're still learning.
Right. But I have a better concept of who I am and what I need, and nobody, no thing, nowhere, no place and time is going to give me happiness. I wake up in the morning and I have two choices. I can choose to be happy, or I can choose to be miserable. And I'm the only one that can choose that. You can't choose that for me. You can make me laugh, and that might make me feel happy. Or you can piss me off, or you can do something that I choose to be pissed off about. And, that can send me down a negative path. But I'm the one who has all control over that. all control over that.
That's the choice that we have to make every day, really, is how
multiple times.
We have a choice on how we react to things.
Right.
And we know what our own triggers are. That's something that I've been talking a lot about too, and I know that I've brought it up in the past, is about creating the tools for yourself to re-trigger how you react to something that you know you trigger, with things that trigger you. You know what gets under your skin and when you react to things and how amplified you get. So only you can find those tools that's going to fit you to retrain how you react to a trigger.
I agree. And I've done a lot of self-study and a lot of self-help. And I got to the point where me being my own teacher was not good enough. And in all of these self-help books and audio books and programs that I had purchased for or friends had shared with, even Oprah. I mean, if you listen to any of the thought leaders out there, John Maxwell, any Joe Dispenza, any of these people that I have studied in my life, they all say you need a coach and a mentor. And I was like, I can do this on my own. And I can't afford a coach or a mentor, right?
Or therapist. Let's add,
well, that's a coach or a mentor.
Yeah,
someone
totally.
To guide you through looking at yourself, right?
Absolutely. From an outside perspective.
Right,
different
right.
Perception of
and to
what
give
you're
you
going through.
tools and to give you things to think about and things to work on.
Because we don't have all the answers.
Nobody
really don't.
Nobody has all the answers. But when I finally broke down and got a coach for myself, paid for a coach for myself, that's when my world really started turning around. Because this person, Gil McCliff, gave me tools and talked to me through and showed me things that really, really worked. And it really helped me do that deep dive that I needed to do. And so I'm so, so grateful for that. And through that, I got introduced to Dr. Joe Dispenza. So I've been a student of his, taking courses, and he has taught me about meditation, which has changed my life. Mm-hmm. And I've heard that for years too. Meditation's changed my life. Okay, yeah, well, I don't have time for that. Well, make time for it, because to me, that's my priority of the day. That's where I get my lessons now. In the beginning, it was about becoming aware of my triggers and what my filters and the walls, the negative talk that I was giving myself every day, thinking I was not worthy. And, oh my God, if I could only look this way, or if I was only 5 pounds thinner, or if I was only making $10,000 more, then this man would love me. No.
Well, you're having the conversations with yourselves in the morning, which is always, I have my morning ritual too. And so in the morning, it's very important for me before I go out and face the world that I've spent some time with myself.
So I guess to kind of maybe start wrapping this up, one of the things I want to figure out how to do is to get to our young mamas that are in the shelters, or young men even. I don't want this to be gender specific at all, but get to our young people that are living this drama and trauma right now, and help them find those coaches and mentors that they need with the right tools that they need to start doing a deep dive in their 20s. Instead of in their 50s like I did.
Yeah, totally.
If I can save a couple of decades of hell and havoc and not being happy and struggle, internal struggle, not just external, but internal struggle, then, oh my God, what a gift. What a gift that would be.
Absolutely.
To help heal this planet, which is our passions, right? We're here to help heal and connect and...
Well, through great darkness, you can see the light.
Right. And we can do it together. We can't do it by ourselves.
No, we really can't. It really does require, a tribe, your chosen tribe. And people will come in and out of that tribe at different times in your life.
A reason, a season, or forever.
Yeah.
That helps me give a lot of people grace. Oh, well, you're a reason person. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good luck, Brother Bear.
Totally. Yeah, I totally understand that. So that's, I thank you so much for sharing a little piece of yourself. I know that that's very personal for you. But it's definitely one of the reasons that it also has driven us to this space where we have the real shit and being able to give ourselves a platform. And we have some tools now available for us to help people out there. And those are the types of things that we want to do with the real shit is just encourage you, inspire you, connect with you, believe in you. And maybe we can also, we can post some programs here locally, or maybe Lori, you can come up with some suggestions.
There are hotline numbers out there. There are national hotline numbers out there. There are local hotline numbers out there.
Reach out to us. You can contact us if you would just like some ideas. That from her, from your story and your side and what you've been through, maybe you can help guide somebody too. So yeah, reach out to us through therealshit.net, through the contact, and we get those emails. But yeah, we believe in you out there, people. We really do.
Value yourselves enough when you're in that moment, when you've made it through that moment and you have a moment to breathe and to put yourself first. Reach out to somebody and get out.
Yeah.
Get out and get away and give yourself this safe space so that you can think and find people that can help you move forward in your life instead of staying in your...
And if you're open to receiving that kind of help too, it will, even though it's a scary door because it's the unknown and that's the fear taking over it. But if you let go of that fear, you'll find that will open up new doors for you and it will be better. It will be better.
So that takes us right back to our opening quote today, that your fortune is your faith. So faith, some people don't like that word. If you don't like the word faith, then just trust.
That's another one.
Just the unknown,
Yeah.
Step out into the unknown and trust that there is a better life out there. There is a better life out there. And
there's a better version of you out there.
There's your authentic version of you.
Yeah.
Your authentic version of you is waiting to bloom out from all of those layers of filth and dirt that you've got stuck in your head from all that negative talk that you've heard.
Yeah. We just went and saw the new Joker movie. Have you seen that?
No.
So we went and saw the new Joker movie, and a lot of it actually, I guess, apparently is one of the highest grossing films for rated R. It's $1 billion.
Wow.
$1 billion. It definitely goes into pretty much the most realistic version of the story of how the Joker came about in the Batman stories. And it is real. It is deep and it is hard. And this person snaps, boy. I mean, that's it. You can only take so much abuse in your life, and that's the person that you become. And so you are drawn to this person. You understand. After you see the story, you basically understand why the Joker is the Joker. And it is sad. It is very, very sad. And you just want to give him love, honestly, because everybody deserves that. So let's not get it. Let's not let it get to that point.
Right.
And that is very possible because, we have recently in Vancouver, we had a shooting in an old folks home and an old man died, but it was an old man. I mean, this is happening. Let's start connecting, having the conversation, noticing you are loved. I like seeing all of those signs out there and, just those reminders on the bridges. You are loved. You are worth it. You are. I know everybody's got a little spark in there. You just have to fan that fire a little bit more.
It's in there.
It's totally in there.
Let us work together to blow air on everybody's little ember and let those embers glow and
it's healing to talk about. I mean, that's why they tell you to go to therapy and counseling. I mean, it's part of it. You tell your story, you talk it through. Talking it through is really good.
Yeah, there are a lot of different avenues for people to reach out for help, but the key is to reach out.
Yeah,
reach out and get out.
Yeah. So we'll wrap up talking about this subject for the night. I do want to go into a little bit about the week or the couple days that we've had. It's been very exciting around here at the Rail Ship because in a previous podcast that we recorded with our neighbor Manny about the light wave technology.
Love you, Manny.
The Weed 108, which we're working on the name. But we since then have actually officially started an indoor apartment garden. I know you guys have heard me have the idea and talk about it. Well, it's official.
It's official.
It's gorgeous in there. I did post a picture of the stage that it's at right now the other day. But we planted seeds. Manny, Lori, and I planted seeds on Monday. Today is Thursday, so 4 days later, we have sprouts.
Woo!
Sprouts from seeds. So it has been super fun sitting in the light, being in that atmosphere. It's like living inside a jellyfish.
I call it
see
Eden.
Results this quickly. I mean, wow, I'm not kidding you guys. I'm watching this shit grow. My hibiscus tree, it has somehow managed to stay alive in my apartment indoors with like maybe one red flower every month and a half. The leaves in just the last 24 hours that this light has gone on have got doubled in size. I've never seen the leaves look this big and healthy, and it's filling out. I mean, this is happening really fast now that we're at this stage. So lots of new updates to come on that. So that's just, we like to talk about at the end, like what we've been going through, but this is really, we've been hanging out every evening in the garden.
We're hanging in the garden. We're absorbing the light.
It has just been pretty magical. To be able to grow seeds and garden in December. I mean, I talked to Manny earlier today. And I says, I'm out driving in the gloom and the rain, and it's just so nasty. And all I can think about is my garden.
Going home to the light. So
it's already working as far as our moods go. We're happier. I mean, this has been so fun. So far. What a great journey this has been.
So again, if you put thought out there and you act on it, you
never know. I mean, this has changed our lives completely.
This is 6 months ago. We talked about starting the real shit.
Yeah.
And now
Manny's podcast was just a couple months ago.
And now we've got a freaking garden growing, an indoor garden in December in an apartment.
Self-sustainability.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that I also wanted to quickly talk about, because I've actually been putting this into practice for the last month and a half. And I wanted to put this into practice before talking about it on this podcast. I've been kind of aching to talk about this for a minute. And that is, humans adapt, people adapt. We adapt to things. So we can all start making changes. So we are starting to see, like the grocery bags is starting to change. Straws are starting, all of these things where people are starting to get to this space now where we can become our impact on this planet can be less. So when I talk about people adapting, it was like one of my things. And I always said, it was like, if they just fucking took the grocery bags away, then we wouldn't forget our bags. Like, it would take a couple of times of forgetting and having to load every grocery into the car and then having to load it all back into your house. When you had your bags at home, that's how you would do it, right? But you wouldn't forget your bags if you just did this for a few times. So I did something where I thought, I talk about that all the time. I am going to start doing that. And I wanted to talk about how I adapted to that. So I stopped taking bags. I just decided that I'm not going to accept the bags anymore at the grocery store. And if I've forgotten one, which I haven't yet, I actually have always had at least one. Because in the morning when I go out now, what I do is I get all my odds and ends that I'm grabbing, and now I put them in a bag. It's easier on my transport from the apartment to the car, which is also helpful. But now I have the bags, and I haven't forgotten the bags. And that is one thing. And we finally ran out of our Costco, bulk trash bags. And so today, I have had three different, separating my garbage. And I have now very, very amazing, what are they? Biodegradable bags for the trash. It's nothing fancy. You have to tie the knot. It's you can tell the difference. And we're being extremely cautious, rinsing things for recycling, making sure that it's getting in the right spot. And this is just something that we have adapted to now, and it's becoming easier and easier to make that switch. And that's something that's, I think, realistic for people when we talk about big subjects like climate change and reducing our carbon footprint on this planet. So I wanted to bring that up and maybe challenge each one of you out there to make a switch in your life. For example, if you're a big Starbucks person and you don't have your own cup yet, by the way, they give you a 10 cents off your thing for bringing in your own cup. Stuff like that. Just don't get the cup anymore. If you forget the cup, then damn, you forgot coffee. Or you have to buy a new renewable one, or the trash or something. I challenge you each to find something that you can get better at when it comes to leaving a carbon footprint on this planet. So there's that.
Okay. Challenge accepted. I will start bringing my bags.
Or choose whatever it is that will be easiest for you to just switch it up, and see what happens in the next few
already
weeks.
take my coffee, and our community pulled all the coffee cups out.
They did, and I hope that all places kind of start doing that.
Start pulling.
There was a place in San Francisco, I just read an article that actually did that. It's a full-on coffee spot, and they took all of the cups out, and they are perfectly aware of the fact that they may actually lose quite a bit of business from this, but this is what they're willing to do. And so hopefully that kind of thing will catch on more and more.
Well, we all have our travel mugs. Let's just use them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just lazy.
The same with the water bottle.
It's just being lazy.
Most of us have water bottles. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just make that
Let's
little
get rid
extra.
of the cups, people.
Yeah. I mean, it's less of an effort just to rinse out your mug when you're on your way out. So, and even with the garbage thing, it's just really, it's like, if you don't want to get to it, put it in your sink like it's dishes and then rinse the can out later, stuff like that, just, it's part of the dishes.
It is.
But I mean, these are realistic. And my whole point of this is that these are realistic changes that we can all make. And if 20% of us immediately from this moment on that you're listening to this podcast, I mean, not that 20% of the population are listening, but eventually. But you see what I'm saying? We can make a difference.
We can make a difference. It
really does make a difference.
And together as a tribe, we can make a bigger difference.
Yeah. So, Lori, before we wrap it up, is there anything that you wanted to share?
Ooh.
It's been so long since we've been on the microphone.
Anything that I want to share? I just want to share that I am grateful for La Luna and our last full moon of the decade, and the next 10 days are going to be fantastical or crazy or fantastically crazy days. I can't believe we're coming to the end of another decade, but I'm so looking forward to 2020 because this whole year, all my friends who know me well know that 20 has just been like on my radar all year. So I'm so looking forward to 2020 and celebrating a new year. So
Yay, happy full moon.
Happy
the last full moon of the
last
decade.
full moon of the decade.
Yay.
Let's celebrate La Luna. We need to go to the beach, Naomi.
Totally, and do a fire. I'm in. I'm totally in. Break out of the Groundhog Day and go dance.
Right.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to The Real Shit. Don't forget to visit the website at therealshit.net and to subscribe to our channel on YouTube and share if you do enjoy these podcasts. Next week, we're going to go in, we're going to switch it up. And we're going to talk to a little bit about my story and some of the things that I've been through and share a piece of myself with you as well. So we will see you next week. We love you. And don't forget to be a nice hole.